Rabbi Roger, for giving me the opportunity to say a few words to you during this time. I hope Kosh Baruch Hu will help me. Dvarim ha-yotzim min halev, yichnosim lelev. Shulchan Aruch in Simin Kuf Pei Sif Hey Noyagim Lachasois Hasan. There's a minig to cover over a knife when you say Birkus Hamazon. The Nogu Shul Lachasoso B'Shabbos B'Yom Shabbos B'Yom. You're a Shulchan Aruch says minig. Don't do that today, but brings down two reasons for this minig. Minig, the Beis Yosef. Minig, reason number one, is because the table upon which a person eats is like the Mizbeach, and just the way on the Mizbeach, no iron utensil was allowed, because the Mizbeach lengthens one's life and metal shortens one's life. So therefore, I guess when you say Birkus, at least when you say Birkus Hamazon, you know, to cover it up. But I want to go on the second reason. The Tam Sheni, B'Shem Rabbeinu Simcha, Lefi Shapam Echad Higia Echad LeBirkas Bonei Yerushalayim V'Nazkir Churbas Habayis. It says V'nei Yerushalayim Ira Kodesh B'Mheira V'Yameinu. And this fellow was so overcome, V'Toka Sakin B'Vitno. He took a knife and he stuck himself. Okay, no gula salko b'shas. Therefore, we remove it from the table, cover it up, remove it. That's a pella. I didn't know Chazal make takonis for lunatics. The guy's a meshugana, right? The guy goes there, he's saying it wasn't even kinnis, it wasn't eicha. Reading something from benching, B'nai Yerushalayim Ra'Kodesh Me'er, he takes a knife and he sticks himself in Meshugana. So for that you make takonis for doirei doiris, that when you bench you have to remove the knife. Teretz is Rabosa, he wasn't a Meshugana and he wasn't a lunatic. He went a little bit too far. He was overcome with Churban Habayis, and he hurt himself. Chazal felt it could happen to anybody. I don't think we have that hargosha, because unfortunately our hearts are made a little bit out of stone. It's hard for us to feel. The Medrash says, Eker Rabosi, Parsha Aleph, Chof Daled. Amar Avivoi, Laila, oh no, I'm sorry. Maisa Be'isha Achas, Shehoyasa B'Shchunoso Rabbi Gamliel. It was a Maisa woman, she was in the same neighbor, she was a next door neighbor to Rabbi Gamliel. V'hoyala Ben, Sashchoires, different pshatim what that means. Things are very choshev a son. Some say she had a ben zakunim, whatever it was. Umeis, never he died. She would cry for him every night. Rabbi Gamliel sheimeya es koila v'yonisker Churban Beis Hamikdash. So every time you would hear her cry, so he would sit down and he would cry as well over Churban Beis Hamikdash. He would cry to the point where his eyelashes fell out. Why is he crying for Churban Beis Hamikdash? It's a famous word from Rav Gifta. So why is she crying? She's crying over her son. We didn't sit down crying at Beis Hamikdash because Rabbi Gamliel understood that all the tzaras of Klal Yisrael, both national and personal, it's all because we don't have a Beis Hamikdash. It's all because HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't have a home here. So why was it destroyed? So what do you mean, why was it destroyed? It's a Gemara, right? It's a Gemara in Yuma. What the topic for tonight is the real reason for Churban Beis Hamikdash. What does that mean, Rabbi? Real reason? It says what the reason is. The reason is because of sinas chinam. That's the reason why the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. You don't have to learn a pilpushir. So what does that mean? So because of sinas chinam, because of machlekes, yeah, because people don't get along. So Torah, Shabbos, all the other mitzvahs, you can't have a binyan Beis Hamikdash. What's the pshat? So I'm going to try to share maybe a little more mitzidi, a little more omek, possibly. It's a vort I heard b'shem Rav Matisyo Solomon Shrev Refuah Shalema. That's what I want to talk about tonight. The Magen Avram says in the end of Tuf Kufpei Hilchos Tainus. So he brings it as a minute Yechidim have to fast on Erev Shabbos Parshas Chukas. So I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to get to the second reason. He says something else besides the fact that 20 wagon loads of Shas was destroyed. This is in the Middle Ages. We'll go to the second piece. V'gam b'shnas tovches, this is tak v'tat, 1648, 1649. One of the worst gezeres ever happened to the Jewish people. Nischavu shnei kehilos gedolos, two great communities were destroyed ba'osei hayam on that day. K'mo shekasa b'slichas shechiber bal hasifsei koyeh. Right, two great communities. The Cossacks, Yamak Shemam, the savagery, the butchery. They devised ways of killing people. The Nazis, Yamak Shemam, took their playbook. These were human beings in the form of demons. So we all know, it's famous, Tosfos Yontif had a shaylas chalom. You made a shaylas chalom. And they told him, why did this happen? Why did the Xeris happen? Tak for that. The Xeris was just butchery is unbelievable. You know why it happened? Because they talk in shul. Because they don't zilzal beis hakneses. That makes sense to you? I understand intuitively. It's a big avera, yeah, to talk in shul. Cell phones too, by the way. Cell phones, same thing. I mean, what's my raya? I don't have a raya, but I'm just telling you. Libi Omer, cell phones, the same thing. You know, I was in the Motor Vehicles Bureau. Where is this? I was in the Motor Vehicles Bureau last summer, trying to renew my license. I saw a sign there, so I was like moved by it, so I wrote it down. This is the sign in the Motor Vehicles Bureau. For the courtesy and respect of others, please refrain from cell phone usage and texting while being served. Now, the people behind the window, you know, they're not the Chafetz Chaim, but they're a human being. And what they're telling you is that when you talk to this human being, not a tzaddik, not a tzaddekes, you know, don't look at your cell phone, don't text, because it's not nice, it's not coveted. So when you come into shul, so maybe you don't talk, but you take out a phone. So while you're being served, don't do this. So the truth is, we come to serve Hashem when we come here, but He's also serving us. Because He comes to us and He says, Mein teure Kind, my beloved child, what's on your mind? How can I help you? I want to help you. I want to serve you. I want to do something for you. Just 1 second. Hope I didn't do anything here. You're playing around with your phone? You're looking at your phone? So it's the same zilzal as talking as far as I'm concerned. Same thing. But how does it make sense? I'll tell you something else. Now, I don't like to label crowds, but if I said this in certain crowds, they literally would whisk me off the podium. They would take me right off the podium, what I'm going to tell you now. But I didn't say this. By the way, I have a transcript here. I mean, some of it, not all of it. From a drasha that Rav Yitzchak Sorotsky gave, I don't know how many years ago. It's called On Ending the Bitter Galus. And I just read you what he says. But again, it's just, you can't wrap your head around this. So he says like this. Remember, I didn't say this. A Maisa with the Debrecina. I assume he's speaking about the Be'er Moshe. By the Second World War, Churban Europe, he was standing by the last train going out to Auschwitz. Suddenly a lady appeared out of nowhere and started screaming in Yiddish, Yidden, Yidden, you need to know why there's so much tzaris, so much suffering. Because you speak in the shuls. The Sfarim were spared because they were ugehitten. I think I said that right. In Kedush's Beis HaKnesses, the Debrecina says Eidos that after she finished saying this, she disappeared into thin air. Now, I don't know whether you believe it or not. He says that Debrecina was there. He said he saw it. So how does that make sense? So you're telling me Churban Europe, 6 million? Gedolei Olam? Kedoshei Elyon? Because people were mezalzel in Beis HaKnesses? The Yimrei Emes says the same thing, the Ger Rebbe. The Yimrei Emes says, Ala pliya shahaya sabe einay olam ha-Torah shebeis ha-shoya yuma nergu kishlish mea olam ha-Yehudi b'medinos Europe. But in the Kehilos Svart lo hoya shoya Omar ha-Imrei Emes shatam hu mishum sheshomru ma'od al kedushas botei knesios shlo Elohem ki yodua. And then he brings a remez. Hashem yilochem lachem. Right? Parshas B'Shalach. Moshe Rabbeinu says, Hashem yilochem lachem va'atem takarishun. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to fight your battles, but you be quiet. Hainu loy tishtoichu sichas skulim b'beis HaKnesses. There's a medrash, Pardes Yosef, brings an unbelievable medrash. The Pardes Yosef says, same idea. The Satan comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and says, you know, the Jewish people, they're a bunch of charlatans, a bunch of ganovim. They cheat in business, they do all kinds of things. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, do me a favor. The goyim are much worse. Leave me alone. Okay? Then he comes to me, talks to me about Arayas. He says, do me a favor. The goyim are much worse. Tell me something I don't know, okay? And then he comes to him, says the Medrash, Yisrael meisichim dvorim beveis hakneses, oz ein la kodesh baruch hu leheshiv ki ha'uma tiflosom b'derech eretz v'kovid, because the goyim in their places of worship, they stay in the kovid, they show respect. The same thing. God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to fight your battles. V'atem tacharishum ratzaloymer b'lo sasichu sichu b'veis haknesses. We all know the Mechaber, right? The Mechaber is Siman Kuf Kuf Daled, Sif Zayin, right? So the Mechaber says, if you're talking Shmita Lashmon Esrei, Godol Avo no means so. What, such a language. A sin is too great to bear. He doesn't use that language. We all know this. By any other mitzvah in Kol HaTorah Kula, the Mechaber, as far as I know, doesn't say that language. And that was said by what? By the first murder in human history. Cain killed Hevel. So, you tell me this is the worst Avera a person could do? Shabbos, Niyuf, Gili Arayas. What are you saying? How does this make sense? How does this make sense? How does this make sense that Bizoyin Beis HaKnesses? And by the way, Rav Zilberstein writes, even if you're quiet, but other people are talking, and i.e. bringing your cell phones too, it's not going to work. How does this make sense? So I'll tell you what I heard. There's a great Maggid Shir by the name of Shuli Bornstein. I don't know if any of you ever heard of him. He's one of the great Maggidei Shirs in the world. He said he heard a shmooze from Rav Matisyahu Solomon, who said the following. And with this knetch, it was mamash and eye opener to me. Begin to understand a little bit what's going on. He talks about the Toshvis Yontiv, the Gzeres Tak for Tat, the Shilas Chalom. He came back and he said it's because Zilzul Beis HaKnesses. So Rav Matisyahu Solomon Shev Refuah Shoyim Matisyahu Chaim Ben Elta Shev Refuah Bekorov. So he said, what's the pshat? How does it make sense? So he said that's not what the Tosfos Yontif meant. It's not because they were talking in shul or cell phones. They didn't have it yet. What do you mean? But that's how they bring it down. That's not what he means. What he means is that the Gzeirus of Tach V'Tat didn't happen because of Zilzul Beis HaKnesses, he said. It happened because of who knows what Keshboinus the Rabboni Shalom has. Who knows? Whatever reasons they were. But we have a koach. Klal Yisrael has a koach, has such an atomic weapon that no matter what Gzeirus there are, no matter what happens in life, we have a special koach. Kol Yaakov, it's called tefillah. And tefillah can do anything, and it does do anything. So therefore, okay, there were these terrible gzeirus. So Yidden got together in the Batei Midrashim, in the Beis Knesses, and they daven, what Jews do, but they daven. But the problem is, said Rav Matisyahu Solomon, that because in the good times, there was Zilzul Beis HaKnesses, and there was talking, and people weren't treating the Beis HaKnesses with proper kavod. So therefore, your tefillahs go nowhere. They don't go anywhere. Of the sin, of the aveira, of the talking. But it's the talking and the zilzul which creates a barrier that the tefillahs are not able to reach up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is Rabbi Yonasan Eibshitz. There's a pasuk in Eicha, Gimel Mem Dalet, Sakoisa be'anon loch me'avor tefillah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you wrapped yourself up in a cloud and you prevented tefillah from penetrating you. Says Rabbi Yonasan Eibshitz, what does that mean? He says because of the talking in the Batei Knesios and Batei Midrashos, therefore they were not able to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what he says. That's a pella. It's a pella. Embarrassing somebody in public is Eilo Chelik Li Olam Haba. It's one of the worst averis you could do. The Prima Garden brings B'Shem Dvaya Amudim Oilahem Shemesikim B'Yeis HaTfilah Yesh Limnois HaNoshim Yeduyim Al Zeh Ba'onshim Rabim V'Yavaishim B'Rabim. You should embarrass... Now, I don't advise this, by the way. But you should embarrass them in public. How do you let embarrass somebody in public? How do you let it do that? In fact, he brings here, Rav Zilberstein had a shaila. There was a fellow in shul who constantly was talking. They spoke to him about it. They tried to get him, cajoling him not to do it. He wasn't listening. He just was never listening. So finally they came up with a plan. So while he's talking, so one of the chevra, they're going to call him up for an aliyah, but he doesn't know nothing. He doesn't know what's going on. So they'll tell him, you called up for Hagbah. So when they called him up for the aliyah, they said, hey, you got Hagbah. So he goes up and he does Hagbah, and everybody's looking like he's Meshuggah, and he's embarrassed out of his mind, and they figure maybe that'll teach him a lesson. So they want to know from Zilberstein, is that okay to do? So Zilberstein said no. To make fun of somebody, that you can't do. But he paskins halacha l'maisa, and again, I don't advise this, but he paskins halacha l'maisa, that if you have somebody who's a habitual talker and he creates disturbances, you can call him up for an aliyah, And after an aliyah, the Gabbai can give a clap on the bima, and the Gabbai can say, we would like to ask, b'shem the Rav, b'shem the Kehila, that Mr. So-and-so or Rabbi so-and-so should stop talking during davening or during Kriyas HaTorah. And you're 100% you're allowed to do that, and you don't have to ask for Mechila. Now again, as I say, don't do that. It's just not a good idea. Okay? So, but now I understand a little bit. Because according to Rabbi Solomon, what he's saying is, it's a sakon, the language that we have to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the only way we get anything in life is through tefillah. You take away the power of tefillah from the Klal Yisrael, we have nothing. You can have Torah, Gevaldik, you have Shabbos, Gevaldik. But if you don't have tefillah, and that's what all the Meforshim say. I got pages and pages on this. That if there's a zilzul Beis HaKnesses, I don't want to depress anybody. It's going okay, HaKadosh Baruch Hu understands it's a weaker generation. I get it. It's a weaker generation. But that doesn't mean everything flies. That doesn't mean everything's okay. That doesn't mean we can't make a difference. Now in the kollel here, it's pretty good. But we still need chizuk. We all need chizuk. We mechazik others nicely, but derech kavod, with sensitivity, because we don't have tefillah. You want to know why there's so much tzaris? I'm going to get back to Yom Testament Beis in a second. You want to know why there's so much tzaris? I want to ask you a question. How come so many tefillahs don't get answered? Oh, that's a dangerous statement to make. Okay, I don't know, I'll tell you, I know I was a Rav for 20 years. A lot of people daven for a lot of things. Well, you can't ask cheshbonis. I'm not asking cheshbonis. You know, sometimes Hashem says no. I know that. You know what it says, that Hashem takes every tefillah and puts it away and he'll use it for a different time. Okay, I got it. I know that too. But halo davar hu. There's so much illness, so much pain in Klal Yisrael. Duchim and Shalom Bayis and kids off the derech and sicknesses and parnasa issues. There's mounds and mounds and mounds of tsaris. Mountains. And we daven, we cry. People cry, they cry their hearts out. So again, I'm not here to explain the ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But I'm just telling you what Rabbi Solomon said. Because our koach hatfilah has been weakened. Taka cry, we have kavanis. But it's sakosa ba'onon loch. Hashem has wrapped himself in a cloud. So let's go back now to Yom Testament Beis. Yes, why did the Beis Hamikdash get destroyed? What do you mean why? It says so. Testament Beis. Because of sinas chinam. Well, the Chavetz Chaim says it's not actually sinas chinam, because sinas chinam could not bring about such tragedy. I mean, it's a serious aveira. He says it's lashon hara. It's the sinas chinam which brought about the lashon hara. Says it very clearly. Because if not for the fact that there was lashon hara, there wouldn't have been such a devastation. And when Chazal say in the Gemara Yom, it says, you see, sinas chinam keneged avodah zarah gila right and shvikus damim. The only place you ever see that is by lashon hara. It's a Gemara in Erchen. So you see already the Chavetz Chaim says, what do you mean? But the Gemara says sinas chinam. Yeah, but the Chavetz Chaim touches it up. It's sinas chinam, but it's because it brought about lashon hara. So I want to take what Rav Matisyahu Solomon is saying, and I want to just add a little knech. And that is, and the Chavetz Chaim speaks about this many times also. You know, by the Metzora, I don't know what happened to it. By the Metzora, so it says he has to chutz lamachne tomei yikra. So one reason is he has to tell people that he's tomei, stay away. But the Gemara in Shabbos says on Daf Samach Zayin, it's Gemara Moed Kotten 2 on Daf Hey, that he has to be Moedia, he has to tell over the tsar that he's in to the Rabbim, that they should be mispalo for him. They should be mispalo for him. So I saw some of the Mepharshim ask the question, well, we don't find by any other machli you're supposed to tell your tsar to the Rabbim. Is Bedafke here? You're supposed to tell over his tsar, his pain, his anguish to the masses that they should daven for him. In fact, it's brought down, this is in Bereshis by Yishmael. It says, Vayishmas kol anar, Kadosh Baruch Hu heard the voice of the Na'ar, which is Yishmael. And Rashi says over there, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu hears the prayers of a sick person more readily than those who pray for him. His mother was also praying for him, no? Hagar was praying for him also. But Hashem said, I heard his voice. Why? But I know. But I listen more to the prayers of someone who's sick. So then what's the problem? So why can't the person what does he have to... Can't he daven for himself? So again, the Mepharshim saying, no, he can't. You know why he can't? Because his mouth is filled with Lashon Hara, and therefore his tefillah has no koach. He can't go anywhere. Maybe that's the oimek. The Chavetz Chaim says what the Gemara means is not sinas, it's sinas chinam, but it really means Lashon Hara. It's the sinas chinam which brought about the Lashon Hara. But what happens when there's Lashon Hara? What happens when there's Lashon Hara is our mouth is sullied, it's dirtied. Because no matter what, isn't there a koach hatfilah? Isn't there a koach hatfilah that you could call out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? All right, the sinas chinam, it's not a good thing. All right, there's Lashon Hara, it's not a good thing, it's a serious avera, don't get me wrong. But what about tefillah? Tefillah is the language of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He listens to us. Kol shekaru b'emes, if we call out to him in truth, he listens. How come we can't do it? No, Lashon Hara. So your mouth is filled with that, so tefillahs have no power, have no koach. So maybe when the Gemara says, it's in a schinam, which brought about Lashon Hara, but it's also maybe a little shtickle zilzal Beis HaKnesses. Because if we had more respect and more kavod, our tefillos would be more infinitely powerful, that we'd be able to reach HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What's my point? So my point is, like I said, Avada, it's a weaker generation. Hashem understands it's taka difficult. But that doesn't mean we can't rise to the occasion. I remember a long time ago, there were children here in this community that were ill. So I remember the signs that went up there. They're still there a little bit, but there was a different sign before. That the Kolo got together, they decided that nobody should bring a cell phone into shul. Leave it in the lockers as a schus for a full shalema. I don't know, maybe in the beginning, I know some people do leave it in the lockers. It's very nice, it's beautiful. Maybe we need to be mechazik ourselves to show the Rabbanu Shalom. We want our koach hatfilah to come back in full force. In full force. Avad, we got to work on not speaking Lashon Hara, step by step. Because Baruch Hu just has to see that we try, that we want it. Not to talk in shul, not even ben gavra legavra by kriyas haTorah. A little mesiras nefesh. A little mesiras nefesh, not to be mezalzel and kedushas Beis HaKnesses. I just quoted you a bunch of material. So you're going to say that's for a different generation, Rabbi. That's not for us. That's frummy stuff. No, it's not. It's not. It's the emes. It's the absolute truth. I got 25 more pages on this. It's the absolute emes. Avada, there's no end, right? There's no end. You can work on many things. But this is a big one. This is davar sha'omed beruma sha'olam. We mechazik ourselves. Mitzvah Hashem, and that's chus. We'll see the Gula Shalema. Mashiach tzidkenu b'mehera b'yameinu. Amen.
Maybe just hoping no one's cell phone rings their mouth.